Important terminologies. Here are some important terminologies to remember which we come across in industrial safety. Accident. An accident is an event which is unplanned, unintended and unexpected. Accident book. An accident book is used to record details of any accidents that have occurred in the workplace, however minor the injuries are. ACOPs, Approved Code of Practice. ACOPs provide detailed guidance on how to comply with the relevant health and safety legislation. You are strongly advised to follow the steps set out in the ACOP. Should you be taken to court, the onus will be on you to demonstrate that any alternative arrangements are as effective in protecting health and safety as the methods set out in the ACOP. Action levels. There are 3 action levels. The first 2 action levels depend on the noise levels in the workplace and how long people are exposed to noise. The third action level, peak action level, refers to the maximum limit for a single loud noise. Air quality strategy. The air quality strategy for England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland aims to assess the air quality across the whole of the UK. It sets targets for the reduction of hazardous emissions to air. Approved supply list. The approved supply list contains many commonly used hazardous substances. Suppliers must identify these substances with a warning label and provide you with a safety data sheet. Authorized waste carrier. Authorized waste carriers are permitted to handle and dispose of waste. They include council waste collectors, registered waste carriers, with the EA or SEPA, holders of waste management licenses, registered waste brokers, with EA or SEPA. BAT, best available techniques must be used by businesses regulated under PPC to ensure that pollution is avoided. BATNIC, best available techniques not entailing excessive cost must be used by businesses regulated under IPC and LAPC. BPM, best practicable means is an attempt to prevent a nuisance occurring or to counteract its effects. The term means includes the design, installation and maintenance of plant and machinery. The manner and periods of operation of plant and machinery. The design, construction and maintenance of buildings and structures. British standards. A British standard is a document that sets out a technical specification or other precise criteria for materials, products, systems and services. British standards can indicate that materials and products meet a certain safety or environmental standard. CDM, Construction, Design and Management, Regulations 1994. The aim of CDM is to put management systems in place to ensure that health and safety risks faced by construction workers, and others, are avoided, reduced and controlled. CHIP, Chemicals, Hazard Information and Packaging for Supply, Regulations 2002. The aim of CHIP is to ensure that people who are supplied with chemicals receive the information they need to protect themselves, others and the environment. CHP, Combined Heat and Power. CHP installations generate power, in the form of electricity, and heat, usually in the form of steam or hot water. Climate change. Greenhouse gas emissions cause changes to the Earth's climate, such as higher temperatures and rises or falls in rainfall. Climate Change Levy. The Climate Change Levy is a tax on energy used by businesses. The levy is charged on electricity, natural gas, liquefied petroleum gas and several forms of coal and coke. Control of Major Accident Hazards Regulations 1999. Applies to industrial sites using or storing dangerous substances which, if a major accident occurs, have the potential to cause harm to both people and the environment. Confined space. A confined space is any enclosure with limited openings, e.g. storage tanks, silos, sewers, drains, vats, open-top chambers. Contaminated land. Contaminated land is land that contains substances, either in, on or under the land, which could cause significant harm to people, other animals, vegetation, man-made property and environment. Contaminated land is also land which is, or is likely to, cause the pollution of controlled waters. Control hierarchy. The control hierarchy sets out the order in which you should control risks, specifically hazardous substances. These are: 1. Eliminate the need for a hazardous substance by changing the process or activity. 2. Replace it with a safer alternative. 3. Prevent access to it by putting in place system and engineering controls. 4. Control exposure at source, e.g. by using local exhaust ventilation. 5. Issue personal protective equipment. Controlled waste. Controlled waste is household, commercial or industrial waste. It may be solid or liquid, scrap metal or a scrap car. It does not have to be hazardous or toxic to be controlled waste. Controlled waters. Controlled waters are the UK's natural waters. These are rivers and streams, lakes and lochs, estuaries, coastal waters and groundwaters. Corgi, Confederation of Registered Gas Installers. Only Corgi-registered organizations are allowed to install, inspect and maintain natural gas appliances. COSH, Control of Substances Hazardous to Health Regulations 2002. COSH requires businesses to take steps to control the risk of hazardous substances to employees. Dark smoke. Dark smoke is any smoke that appears to be as dark or darker than shade 2 on the Röntgen chart. Burning of fossil fuels, coal, oil, gas, and wood, may release dark smoke into the air. Dark smoke creates high levels of carbon monoxide, CO, and carbon dioxide, CO2. Both contribute to greenhouse gases and are linked to climate change. Disabled person. A person is disabled if he or she has a physical or mental impairment, which has a substantial long-term and adverse effect on his or her ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities. Discharge consent. A discharge consent is a permit issued by the EA or SEPA that allows you to discharge certain matter into controlled waters subject to strict conditions. See Trade Effluent Consent. DSE, Display Screen Equipment. DSE is all equipment that has a video display screen including computers, television, control screens etc. Duty of care for health and safety. Both you and anyone on your premises have a duty of care to protect their health and safety. This means that you must take reasonable precautions to avoid acts which could foreseeably cause harm to people. Duty of care for waste. The duty of care is a law that states that you must take all reasonable steps to ensure that waste is managed responsibly. If you give waste to someone else, you must be sure they are authorized to take it and can transport, recycle or dispose of it safely. EA, the Environment Agency, is the main regulatory and enforcement authority for environmental matters. It is responsible for matters concerning waste regulation, water quality, including pollution prevention, and regulating the emissions from most large industrial and manufacturing processes. Ecolabel. An ecolabel is awarded to products that meet strict criteria to prove that they minimize their impact on the environment. The ecolabel is a voluntary instrument to encourage the development of greener products. E. European Environment Agency. The E provides information on the state of the environment in Europe. EOS, Environmental Health Officers. EOS are the officers who undertake the duties of the enforcement authority, local authorities, responsible for health and safety for some premises including offices, retail premises, food premises, exhibition premises and some warehousing. EOS also have environmental responsibilities such as dealing with air pollution problems and noise nuisance. EHS, the Environment and Heritage Service, advises on the implements environmental policy and strategy in Northern Ireland. IA, Environmental Impact Assessment. IA is a method used to take into account environmental considerations for a proposed development. Electrical installation. An electrical installation is the installed mains wiring that distributes electricity around a building, including cables, sockets, panels. Electrical system. An electrical system is anything that may become energized from the electrical installation to electrical appliances connected to it. IMAS, the European Union's EU Eco-Management and Audit Scheme. IMAS is a voluntary standard obtained by businesses, which demonstrates that they have gone beyond minimum legal compliance and are continuously improving their environmental performance. Businesses regularly produce a public environmental statement that reports on their environmental performance. EMS, Environmental Management System. An EMS helps a business manage its activities which affect the environment. Energy efficiency. Energy efficiency refers to the sustainable and efficient use of energy to cut carbon dioxide emissions, which are the key contributor to global warming. Enforcement authorities, officers, both the HSE and local authorities are responsible for enforcing health and safety legislation. In very broad terms, the HSE covers industrial activity, and local authorities cover local commercial activities. Enforcement notices. Enforcement notices are issued by the environmental regulator if breach of a consent has occurred, or is likely to occur. Environmental standards. Environmental standards, such as ISO 14001 or IMAS, are a way to demonstrate a business commitment to reducing the environmental impact of all their effects. Participation in either standard is voluntary. European Waste Catalogue. The European Waste Catalogue has been produced by the European Union to allow those dealing with waste to identify it accurately. It is used in duty of care for waste documentation. The catalogue also identifies wastes that should be classified as hazardous. Fire certificate. A fire certificate sets out the fire safety arrangements for your premises. It includes a plan of the premises showing all fire safety equipment, signs and fire escapes. Details of the fire alarm system installed. Testing and maintenance details for the equipment. First aid. You must make arrangements to ensure that anyone who is injured or suffers ill health at work receives immediate attention and that an ambulance is called in a serious case. First aider. A first aider is someone who has undergone a training course in administering first aid and holds a current first aid at work certificate. First aid box. A first aid box contains equipment, which you may need when applying first aid, e.g. dressings, bandages, plasters. A first aid box is clearly marked with a white cross against a green background. Global warming. Global warming is a result of certain gases, including CO2, accumulating in the atmosphere, causing it to retain heat and alter global climate. Greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases are gases that cause global warming, including carbon monoxide, CO, carbon dioxide, CO2, methane, CH4, nitrogen oxides, NOx, and chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. Groundwaters. Groundwaters are underground water resources, e.g. aquifers. Harm. Harm can be injury, ranging from minor, e.g. small cuts, bruises, to severe, e.g. a loss of a limb. Physical ill health, e.g. dermatitis, asthma, hearing loss. Mental ill health. Death. Hazard. A hazard is anything that has the potential to cause harm to people, e.g. chemicals, electricity, working with ladders. Hazardous substances. Hazardous substances are substances used directly in work activities, e.g. adhesives, paint, cleaning agents. Substances generated during work, e.g. fumes from soldering. Naturally occurring substances, e.g. grain dust. Biological agents, e.g. bacteria. Health surveillance. Health surveillance involves checking the health of individual employees exposed to specific health risks at work. This is done by looking for adverse changes to their health, which may be caused by hazardous substances. Home worker. A home worker is an employee who works at home for an employer. HSC, the Health and Safety Commission. The HSC is responsible for providing information and advice, sponsoring and conducting research, submitting proposals for new and revised legislation. HSE, Health and Safety Executive. HSE is the enforcement and advisory body to the HSC. It is responsible for providing information and advice, conducting inspections and enforcing health and safety law, conducting research, drafting new and revised legislation and approved codes of practice. IE, Institution of Electrical Engineers. The IE has published regulations for electrical installations, which are universally accepted as the standards for electrical installation and maintenance. Improvement notices. Improvement notices are served by a health and safety inspector if a law has been broken and the infringement is serious enough to warrant it. Information, instruction, training and supervision. Employers have a duty to provide workers with information, instruction, training and supervision. Information is the duty to advise workers of the hazards and risks associated with their work. Instruction is the established way in which the worker needs to conduct themselves to minimize and control risks. Training is the process of ensuring workers are competent to follow the instruction and ensure that the risks are under control. IPC, Integrated Pollution Control. IPC applies an integrated approach to the environmental management of certain industrial activities. Emissions to air, water and land must be considered together. IPPC is in the process of replacing IPC. Existing IPC processes are being phased into the IPPC regime between December 1, 2000 and March 31, 2007. IPPC, Integrated Pollution Prevention and Control. IPPC, like IPC, covers emission to air, land and water, but it goes further and covers noise and vibration, energy efficiency, waste minimization, environmental accidents and site protection. IPPC is in the process of replacing IPC. Existing IPC processes are being phased into the IPPC regime between December 1, 2000 and March 31, 2007. ISO 14001. ISO 14001 is an internationally recognized standard for environmental management systems, EMS. The standard recognizes businesses that demonstrate compliance with legislation and attainment of high environmental standards. Landfill. Landfill is disposing of solid waste into or onto land. A landfill tax applies to all waste disposed of at a licensed landfill site. LAPC, Local Air Pollution Control. Emissions to air from certain businesses are controlled and monitored by the local authority through the LAPC system. LAPC will be replaced in England, Scotland and Wales by LAPC. LAPC, Local Air Pollution Prevention and Control. LAPC will replace LAPC, regulating certain businesses for emissions to air. LAPC and LAPC have very similar requirements. A small number of businesses that are currently regulated under LAPC will have additional obligations under IPPC. Lone workers. Lone workers are people who work by themselves without close or direct supervision. This includes people who work alone on the premises, either separately from other people or outside working hours, or mobile workers working away from a fixed base, e.g. traveling salespeople. LPG, liquid petroleum gas. Manual handling. Manual handling is any task involved in transporting, carrying or supporting a load. It includes lifting, putting down, pushing, carrying or moving. MEL, maximum exposure limit. MELs are set for substances that may cause the most serious health effects, e.g. cancer, and for which safe levels of exposure cannot be determined. A MEL is also set for substances if, although safe levels may exist, it is not reasonable to control to those levels. New or expectant mothers. A new or expectant mother is a woman who is pregnant, has given birth within the previous 6 months or is still breastfeeding her child. Noise. Noise is unwanted sound caused by equipment, machinery and other work processes. Noise-induced hearing loss. Noise-induced hearing loss is either temporary or permanent deafness caused by being exposed to a noisy environment. ELS, occupational exposure limits. The HSE sets OLS for hazardous substances. These values are contained in the publication EH40, which is revised and published yearly. Ozone-depleting substances. Ozone-depleting substances refer to gases that cause damage to the ozone layer. Ozone-depleting substances are often found in refrigerants and solvents. They are now being phased out in the UK. Packaging. Packaging is all products, regardless of the material from which they are made, to be used for the containment, protection, handling, delivery or presentation of goods. Packaging includes boxes, pallets, labels, containers, tubes, bags, sacks etc. made out of paper, board, timber, glass, metals, plastics, ceramics and the like. It can also include tape, wrapping, binding and tying materials. Permit to work. A permit to work is a formal written statement of work to be done, safety precautions to be taken and confirmation that associated risks and hazards have been identified. Personal hearing protection. Personal hearing protection is one type of PPE, which is worn by the worker to protect their hearing in noisy work areas. Personal hearing protection is either earplugs or earmuffs. Polluter pays. Polluter pays is a concept whereby those responsible for pollution meet the costs of restoration or remediation in full. Portable appliance. A portable appliance is any piece of equipment which can be connected and disconnected from the main electrical systems without tools, or which can be energized using a battery, e.g. laptop, computer, kettle. PPE, personal protective equipment. PPE is all equipment, including clothing, that is worn by a worker to protect him or her against one or more health and safety risks. Uniforms that do not specifically protect against risks to health and safety are not PPE. PPE includes safety helmets, gloves, eye protection e.g. goggles, high visibility clothing, safety footwear, safety harnesses. Process guidance notes. Process guidance, PG, notes provide guidance on the conditions appropriate for the control of emissions into air from certain industrial processes regulated by local authorities. Producer responsibility. Producer responsibility involves making manufacturers responsible for the entire life cycle of the products and packaging they produce. The aim of producer responsibility is to ensure that someone, usually the original producer of the goods, takes responsibility for the proper safe disposal, recovery of the goods when they have reached the end of their useful life. Prohibition notice. A prohibition notice is served where a health and safety inspector believes that continuing the activity presents the risk of serious personal injury. The prohibition notice requires the activity to stop until health and safety controls have been put in place. PUR. Provision and Use of Work Equipment Regulations 1998. PUR requires businesses to control risks to employees from work equipment. Reasonably practicable. The judgment of what is reasonably practicable in protecting people in the workplace is based upon the likelihood of an accident arising and the seriousness of the outcome if the accident occurs. Recycling and reuse. Recycling means reclaiming reusable materials from waste, e.g. composting. Reuse means reusing waste materials in their existing form, e.g. milk bottles. RIDDER, Reporting of Injuries, Diseases and Dangerous Occurrences Regulations 1995. Under RIDDER, you are required to report work-related accidents, diseases and dangerous occurrences. It applies to all work activities, but not to all incidents. Ringelmann smoke charts. Ringelmann smoke charts are a series of 4 visual charts graded from white to black used to define the darkness of smoke. Risk. A risk is the chance, high or low, that people or the environment will be harmed by a hazard. Risk assessment. A risk assessment is an examination of what in your work could cause harm to people or the environment. This will allow you to decide what precautions you should take to prevent that harm from occurring. Risk phrases. These are phrases assigned under CHIP to chemicals, e.g. R22, harmful if swallowed, R10, flammable. They describe the hazards of a chemical product and are included in safety data sheets, SDS. RoHS, restriction on the use of hazardous substances in electrical and electronic equipment. RPE, respiratory protective equipment. RPE is one type of PPE worn to protect the worker from inhaling hazardous substances and to provide the worker with air that is clean and safe to breathe. RSI, repetitive strain injury. RSI basically refers to the same conditions of work-related upper limb disorders, RULS. RSI usually refers to pain in the arm when working with computers. The preferred term is RULS. Safe system of work. Safe systems of work are methods for carrying out tasks to take into account all risks with the aim of minimizing them. Safety committee. An employer must set up a safety committee if two or more safety representatives make a written request. The purpose of the committee is to discuss health and safety matters. Safety representatives. Safety representatives are appointed by recognized trade unions. Safety representatives have specific duties including looking into complaints raised by employees regarding their health and safety, carrying out general health and safety inspections of the workplace, carrying out inspections after an accident, inspecting documentation, attending meetings. Safety signs and signals. A safety sign and signal is used in the workplace to warn and instruct anyone on your premises of risks to their health and safety. Safety signs and signals cover traditional signboards, fire safety signs, hand signals, alarms, spoken communication. SDS, safety data sheet. An SDS must be supplied if the chemical is dangerous and supplied for use at work. The SDS provides information on the hazard of the chemicals, handling and storage, its environmental effects, exposure controls. PPE. SEPA, Scottish Environment Protection Agency. SEPA is responsible for regulation and enforcement of most environmental matters in Scotland. Sick building syndrome. This syndrome causes staff to suffer ill health with symptoms including dry, itchy skin, dry eyes/nose/throat, stuffy nose, headaches, lethargy. The main feature of the syndrome is worsening symptoms with increased time spent in the building. Symptoms generally disappear away from the building. Special waste. Special waste is waste that is hazardous or dangerous to handle, e.g. batteries, oils and oil filters, paint and ink, chemical waste, solvents. The term is due to be replaced by hazardous waste when new legislation is made during 2005. Statutory nuisance. A statutory nuisance is only regarded as such if it affects local people. It could arise from noise, smoke and fumes, dust, steam, odors, buildup or deposit of waste and materials. Stress. There is no legal definition of stress. The HSE defines stress as an adverse reaction people have to excessive pressure. If stress is intense and goes on for some time, it can lead to mental and physical ill health, e.g. depression and heart disease. Surface waters. Surface waters are bodies of water on the surface of the land, e.g. rivers, lakes. Sustainable development. Sustainable development is the concept of development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. There are four main objectives, of which the following two relate to the environment. Effective protection of the environment. Wise use of natural resources. Trade effluent, any liquid waste resulting from a business processes. Trade effluent includes waste chemicals, detergents, substances used for washing such as oils, solvents, chemicals, adhesives, inks or powders, runoff water from hard surfaces contaminated with oil, e.g. car parks, maintenance bays. Trade effluent consent. A trade effluent discharge consent is a permit issued by your local sewerage undertaker that allows you to discharge certain matter into sewers subject to strict conditions. Transfer note. In accordance with the duty of care, a waste transfer note has to be produced when waste is transferred from one waste holder to another in the waste management chain and includes a description of the waste. A transfer note must be completed and signed by both persons, holders, involved in the transfer. VDU, Visual Display Unit. VOCs, volatile organic compounds are a wide range of organic chemicals that readily evaporate at room temperature. VOCs are present in solvents, paints and exhaust fumes. There are limits on the emissions of VOx. Waste minimization. Waste minimization means reducing waste at source by reducing raw material use, making more from less and reducing the volume and hazard of emissions to air, land and water. Waste electrical and electronic equipment. New legislation is being made to increase the amount of WEEE that is recovered and recycled. Work equipment. Work equipment is any machinery, appliance, apparatus, tool or installation used for work, e.g. hammers, forklift trucks, pressing machines and photocopiers. RULDS, work-related upper limb disorders. RULDS are problems with the shoulder and arm, including the forearm, elbow, wrist, hand and finger. RULDS can also include neck pain. Problems include tenderness, aches, pains, stiffness, weakness, tingling, numbness, cramp or swelling. They are caused by a variety of work tasks, e.g. forceful or repetitive activities or for poor posture. Asphyxiation. Asphyxiation occurs when body tissues do not receive enough oxygen. The blood oxygen level should be sufficient for normal tissue respiration. Asphyxia, suffocation from lack of oxygen. Auto, ignition temperature, the lowest temperature at a flammable gas, liquid or vapor, air mixture will ignite on its own or contact with hot surface without spark or flame. Chemical burns, burns caused by chemicals. Cold burns, burns caused by liquefied gases which are below 0 degrees C.C. Combustible, able to catch fire and burn. Combustible liquids, liquids with a flash point above 37.8 C and below 93.3 C. Flammable, any substance that is easily ignited, burns intensely or has a rapid rate of flame spread. Flammable liquid, liquid having flash point below 37.8 C. Flash point, the lowest temperature at which a fluid gives off enough vapor to form a mixture with air and produce flame when a source of ignition is present. Explosive limit, the lower and upper limit of flammability of a gas or vapor at ambient temperatures in % of the gas or vapor in air by volume. Flash blindness, temporary visual disturbance resulting from viewing an intense light source. Spontaneously combustible, a material that ignites as a result of retained heat from processing, or which will oxidize to generate heat and ignite, or which absorbs moisture to generate heat and ignite. Oxygen deficiency, an atmosphere having less than the percentage of oxygen found in normal air. Permissible exposure limit (PEL), the permissible concentration of air contaminants to which a worker can be exposed 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, over a working lifetime, 30 years, without adverse health effects. Short-term exposure limit (STOL), the airborne concentration of a material to which anyone can be exposed for a continuous 15-minute exposure period without adverse effects. Maximum for such exposures with at least 60 minutes between exposure periods are safe. E.g. alarm set points of chlorine and ammonia. ppm, parts per million by volume of vapor or gas or other contaminants. Respirator, a device to protect the wearer from inhalation of harmful contaminants. Pinch point, any point at which it is possible to be caught between the moving parts, stationary parts or material being processed. SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus, supply or means of respirable air, oxygen or oxygen-generating equipment. Spontaneously combustible, a material that ignites as a result of retained heat from processing, or which will oxidize to generate heat and ignite, or which absorbs moisture to generate heat and ignite. Threshold limit value, TLV. Lower explosive limit / higher explosive limit.
Please give comment and suggestions.
Thank you.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for more updates. Thank for visit our channel. See you next class.
Thank you.